You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 313.2, the first ever official IndyCar report with Elijah Poe. Elijah and I give mid-season grades to all the drivers, teams, the telecast, the race product, the racing formula, the job that Roger Penske is doing as series owner, and an overall grade to the season as we head to race number 10 at Mid-Ohio this weekend.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, IndyCar fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and our IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe. And Elijah, we are at the halfway point of the IndyCar season. And for our first official IndyCar report, I want to go through the standings with you and kind of talk about each driver and the kind of season they're having, any thoughts you have about the driver. How do you feel about that, Elijah? Welcome.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
All right, well, I just rewatched in preparation for this podcast, rewatched last year's Mid-Ohio race, and man, another just fantastic permanent road course with a lot of places to get really racy. Last year, Alex Palou defeated Pato O'Ward by less than a second, and on a road course, that is a great race. With Alex Palou's, I think I said O'Ward beat
Yeah,
Palou.
I think you switched them up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
Pato.
bad, everybody. Pato O'Ward beat Alex Palou by less than a second with Palou's teammate Kiffin Simpson out in front of the both of them, trying to make a bit of a chicane for Pato O'Ward without he didn't do anything dirty at all, but trying to make it so that his teammate could get by. Fantastic dramatic finish with two young drivers. In fact, Elijah, the race was dominated by young drivers. It was Palou and O'Ward, and Colton Herta was up at the top. David Maluka started near the front, which was a surprise at the time. Kind of the season has been dominated by young drivers.
Yeah, I think in general that's the way, this sport is kind of going, although we still have Scott Dixon, Will Power in the talks and everything, even Alexander Rossi. They're all very
But Rossi and
competitive,
Newgarden in the middle there, the middle-aged ones.
but I would still put them compared to Pato and Palou and Herta just a little bit older. I would put them
Right.
in a different class.
More
Um,
experienced, yeah.
Yeah, but like I was saying, this is absolutely, a rising sport for the younger drivers. You think of Santino Ferrucci, Pato O'Ward, who's been proven to be a great racer. I don't need to say anything about Alex Palou. I think everybody knows how good he is.
Ooh,
And other guys like Colton Herta, who've been in the series for a little bit of time. I think you're really starting to find that age group, the Awards, Palou, um, and Ferrucci, Herta. I can go on and on.
right.
If you're really seeing that group really get their footing in IndyCar, and you can tell that this core group is going to really lead this sport for the next however many years. It's hard to say. They definitely probably won't have the longevity of Scott Dixon, but
That's right.
there's some good drivers in that pack.
And you have to say, looking at these scores, that this is now a three-man race. If you don't think it's over already, which I do, I think this is Palou is going to be the champion. It would have to be really Scott Dixon, if he went on a big run here, could
Hmm.
possibly get his name back in the conversation. But this is really Palou, Kirkwood, and O'Ward, all three young drivers, three different teams. In fact, four different teams in the top four of the
Yep.
standings. Honda dominates four of the top five, but then the next four are Chevy. So let's start with Alex Palou. And if he wasn't a superstar before, winning the Indy 500, dominating the series like he has, winning the last race by not dominating, which was
Hmm.
different. He's led 169 laps this year, 8 top 10 finishes in 9 races, and of course, he's 1/6 of the 9. Elijah, what more is to be said about Alex Palou?
He's just in an absolutely perfect form, and IndyCar fans and myself are watching, a performance that we haven't really seen since, You get into the Foyt years, you get into the Unser years,
Yeah,
and you got to go back a good amount of time to see a dominant stretch like Alex Palou's on right now. And you got to think he's won 3 out of the 4 last championships as well. So it's not like he is not winning races in the past. He's just doing it at a level this year that is just 6 races in the first 9 that he's won is just unbelievable, especially in IndyCar when you have so
that's
many
the thing.
drivers that
That's
are
the
so
thing.
competitive.
It's been
It
so
absolutely is.
competitive. It's been so competitive. Only 2 guys have won races. It's unbelievable.
It's almost like if you would have told me at the beginning of the IndyCar season that we'd be 9 races in and only have 2 winners, I would have I would have fought you to the death because I would have thought there was absolutely no way. But here
You know
we
what I
are.
would have thought? I would have thought they got the formula wrong.
Yeah,
Something's gone wrong, but that's not the case at all.
no, it's really not. It's just been great racing, and the greatest racer on the track has won every time, and that's been
Well,
either Alex Palou or Kyle Kirkwood.
that's right. And Kirkwood's a guy who we've known for a long time. Was kind of an up and comer. At a certain point, I started to wonder if it was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Then he won at Long Beach, and since then has been really good. By the way, I'm going to give grades to all the drivers here. Alex Palou, it's an A+. I mean,
Hmm.
he had a couple of races there where he was an also ran right after Indy, still an A+. All right, Kyle Kirkwood. Not, oh, by the way, he's 93 points behind Alex Palou. He has 3 wins, as we said, 7 top
Hmm.
tens in 9 races, and 105 laps led. Again, another A+ season.
Absolutely, and I would honestly think, it's really going to be hard to challenge Palou. It's hard not to say that he doesn't have this championship won, but if there was somebody to do it, it would be Kirkwood, and I think he could get Palou, especially on the ovals. Looking at the season
Hmm.
remaining, we've got an oval race in Nashville, 2 in Iowa, and 1 in Milwaukee. Even though Palou, like it's hard to say that he's not going to be outside the top 15. He's still really consistent on ovals, and he showed that at St. Louis with an eighth place finish. Just keeping the car in the running is what Palou's so good at. But if Kirkwood was able to push Palou for the championship, it would definitely come on the ovals, where he's been pretty solid this year.
And I would also give Pato Award an A. And I know he's a little underperformed this year, but here's why I'd give him an A. He's the only Chevy in the top 5. Clearly, the Honda teams are a little ahead of the Chevy teams at this point. I'm not saying that's, you look at the Penske season, it's been really
Yeah.
bad. 6 top tens and 9 starts. He's had a little bit of bad luck, but he's led 64 laps, and he's legit. I think McLaren is still probably a little behind Ganassi, Andretti, and Penske as an organization, and for him to be
Yeah.
competing for championships year after year, what an impressive driver.
Yeah, absolutely. He is, if not the most popular driver in IndyCar, he's definitely top 2. And you got to think Chevy hasn't even won a race this season at all. It's been all Honda. So to be up there in the top 5, it shows not only how consistent he is because he's not winning races, he's just getting himself to great finishes. And to be third without a win, I mean, it sounds weird. We only have 2 winners, but to be third without a win is impressive because he's sitting right next to Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenqvist, who's having a great year. His teammate Christian Lundgaard's also having a fantastic season, and Penske's not even on the board. So for him to be doing all that, he's really having a great season in 2025, even though he hasn't come across the finish line in first.
A couple other, in my opinion, A seasons so far. Felix Rosenquist with Meyer Shank in 4th place in the standings. Only only led 7 laps, but 6 top tens and 9 races. A lot of consistency with a young and growing team.
Yeah, he really is. Only 155 points back. It's he's not gonna be pushing for that first or second place, but he could still maybe even push Pato for that third place in the championship as the season rolls on. But to be in a Meyer Shank car, and Meyer Shank's, they got a great car and great organization as a whole. But his teammate is down in 11th place. That's a big jump from 4th to 11th in a championship. And he's running so well. He's been quick his whole career. I would almost love to see him in a Ganassi car or Penske car. um, because he's got the speed. I mean, he's a qualifying monster. He gets a little unlucky in races from time to time, but that's just part of the sport.
It is. Scott Dixon, I would normally give his resume somewhere in the B range, but for him, probably a C minus for what his expectations are. No wins, no poles, only 3 top 5s. Not all of his doing. You talk about some bad luck. Had some bad luck. Also, ranks 4th in the series in laps led this year. So the only reason I would say C minus is for his standards and the fact that
Yeah.
I think he could have a big second half of the season and make that a lot better grade.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody that is going to win a race in a year, I mean, you have to look at Scott Dixon. He's just so inevitable in this series,
Mm,
such a staple for what IndyCar is as a whole. And I mean, he was starting in very last at Road America a couple weeks ago and was in contention to win, and that's just who Scott Dixon is.
yeah, he went from last to first in a matter of laps.
Yeah,
It's not just him being fast. That's part of it.
no.
It's a lot like Rick Mears. When Rick Mears
Mm,
needed to be fast, he was super fast. But he was most of the time running a great race was what he was doing. And
yep.
that's Scott Dixon has taken Rick Mears to the next level, the greatest ever to do that.
Mm,
Just kind of bide your time, and then hey, there's Scott Dixon. It
exactly.
it's
He's always
crazy.
there.
Um,
Always there.
I was never a big fan because I'm not never a fan of the big teams. I'm always pulling for the smaller teams. But having said that, you've got if he's not in your top 5 of all time, there's something wrong with you. And he'd be higher if he had more than one Indy 500.
And I think it's only really a matter of time. Well, he is fighting father time, but
He is.
he seems to be beating that pretty easily. But
I've been
it
saying
feels
that for
like,
5 years now, Elijah. It's just a matter of time before Scott Dixon gets another one.
yeah. I mean, that's how the 500 is, though.
It is.
You really can never say who's going to win. That's why it's such a great race.
We said that about Mario Andretti for 25 years.
Yeah, he never won another.
The second one's inevitable.
Yeah, it's that second one. It's tough to do. It's
It
Indy.
is. The first one, they're all, man, God's got to be shining on you, and you got to be a great driver to win that race.
You're absolutely right. God's got to be shining on you. I like
That's
that.
right. That's right. All right. Christian Lundgaard, great season. Also McLaren in 7th place, 158 points back, 6 top 10s in the 9 races, and he's led 53 laps.
Yeah, for a first year in that Aaron McLaren seat, you look at previous drivers who's been in that number 7 car. It's sometimes a little bit troublesome when you first start off with that organization. But Lundgaard has ran really well, and he's still relatively newer to the series.
Right.
So for him to be at a team like Arrow and be able to have this seat for next year locked in, I think we'll just see his progression through this end of this year and hopefully see a really competitive driver for next season.
Clearly a talent in this series, but we are still waiting for a Dane in victory lane. All
Yes,
right.
we are.
I'm partial to the Danes, just so you know. Willpower. Christian Lundgaard, B plus season. I would probably be higher, but he's second on his own team. Willpower, man, it's just one lap led all year. It's a D minus year for Willpower.
It's been a struggle for Power. He's been in positions to win. That
Yeah,
St. Louis, if his tire didn't blow up, it's hard to say. I mean, it's an oval. You never really know who's going to win, but he was going to be up there. He's just having a bad year, and it's even worse knowing that seat is not locked down for him next season,
that's right.
which could even put some more stress on him as well to try to perform. But the Penske cars have been so good, but they just can't deliver in races. And if there's
Yeah.
anybody to deliver for them, it would be their longest tenured driver in Will Power.
And
He's been super consistent. It's just the issues have just gotten the best of him this season, and you could say that for every Penske driver.
and again, the D minus I gave is based on expectations, and again, that his seat being so warm that up to this
Mm.
point it seems almost lost. Again, though, some ovals coming up. Those Penske cars have been fantastic. Have been fast on ovals. and just haven't
Yeah.
had the results.
Yeah. And especially on the ovals when you have, they won both races at Iowa last year. That's the next oval IndyCar is going to. I would honestly be very shocked if a Penske doesn't win one of those two races, just because they are so
But it's
dominant on
gone
those
so
shorter
bad,
ovals.
you almost expect for it to keep. Speaking of which, in eighth place is Scott McLaughlin. He has been so racy, so competitive. Probably the third most racy driver in the series this year. He or Pato,
Yeah,
and
I
is
would
in
say so.
eighth place. Just a lot of bad luck, a lot of that Penske stuff, and sometimes he's forced his own bad luck this year. He's made some mistakes
Yeah, I mean,
unexpectedly.
no bigger than the mistake at Indy this year. He was that accident was actually right in front of me this year, and I would tell you, my jaw dropped to the floor. It's just something not only you don't want to see, but him climbing out of the car, hands in face. That kind of sums up his whole year this year. It's just been really rough. He's obviously had the pace, like you said. He's been racy. He's led 105 laps this season, and he's in eighth place. You have to go all the way up to Kyle Kirkwood in second, who has 105 laps led this season. So obviously he's been in the front. He just hasn't crossed the finish line in first.
Man, Penske just an F of a season so far.
It
Just
is.
a complete fail to them. And again, I'm not criticizing anyone in particular. Willpower, it's not. I don't think it's Willpower's driving has been a D minus. I think the
No,
situation is a D
no.
minus situation. That's all I'm saying.
And I think the Penske guys themselves they market themselves, pretty well. Penske perfect, that whole saying. And these drivers, they're likable. Will Power is one of the best personalities in the sport. Scott McLaughlin's surely unique, and
Yeah.
Joseph Newgarden is one of one in this
Ooh,
sport. So
we're
I
gonna get
think,
to him pretty soon.
yeah. Well,
Ooh.
I don't know. I wouldn't say pretty soon. He's right
No,
now.
not even pretty soon. You're right. He has been. I can't even remember a season. We'll get to that in a minute. By the way, what do we think, Scott McLaughlin? C plus, B minus, just based on no wins and being in eighth place.
I like a solid C.
Yeah,
A solid C.
yeah. I'd probably put a little higher because he's been up there in so many races. But you're right. And Santino Ferrucci, I would give a B plus or a B. His Foyt team, though, if there's another A plus to be given so far in this season with Alex Palou, it's Foyt Racing. Just an amazing year they've had so far.
Yeah, I might even stretch Santino up to an A. He
Ooh,
would be higher. He would be sitting in the seventh place right now if those points from Detroit weren't taken away from him.
mm,
So he's had a really great year, and that Foyt team as a whole is just really coming to their own. I mean, he would be beating every single Penske driver right now if those points from Detroit were still there. And he always runs well at the 500. Ran really well at Road America, saving a third place and fuel saving. I was listening to Off Track with Hinch and Rossi today, and the fuel saving numbers he gave out were just crazy. Hinch was dying laughing because he almost couldn't believe it. He was braking, he was just lifting and coasting so early. And I just can't believe he even was able to save that. But he's just having such a great year.
you're right. I was thinking didn't really contend at Indy, but he did finish fifth after a couple of people were penalized. Clearly wasn't up to his teammates. And by the way, I heavily weigh Indy in these grades, as you
Sure.
might imagine, on the
Yeah.
Central Indiana Sports Report. Um, but I think you're right. A top five at Indy with four top five finishes. I'm gonna put Ferrucci as our fifth A on the year, and make him an A minus. That's how I'm gonna grade him. Colton Herta in 10th. I gotta say it's been a pretty disappointing year. You know, we really expected him to be one of the top five at least.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost a reoccurring thing in these past couple of years where you really expect Colton Herta to be challenging for a championship. He's obviously got the pace, he's obviously got the racing skills, but down in 10th this year when his teammates up in second, almost a 99 point differential in the
Ooh,
point standings. And Colton Herta is also, I've said it before, he's driving for a possible seat in Formula One. He's been
Oh
rumored to
yeah,
be the next American in Formula One in that Cadillac seat for a couple years now, and he's got to be up in fourth place to get his Formula One or FIA super license, and sitting in 10th place right now and seeing fourth. Was it like 50 odd points or something? It's going to be an upward climb for Colton Herta the rest of the year.
definitely had a D plus like season. A guy again. I think we're gonna hear more from him in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I mean he runs pretty well on those ovals. He's always ran well at Mid Ohio. He's always ran well at Laguna Seca. So it's not he's going to be up there. He's just got to really um, get those results he needs to climb up this ladder in the second half of the season.
Then in 11th place, Marcus Armstrong with Meyer Shank. Really good season for him. Only one top five, but very consistent with five top tens. One of those guys who's just bringing it home and has himself ahead of a few stars of the series in the standings.
Yeah, I think you said it well with just bringing it home. He's in his position right now with Meyer Shank Racing where, he obviously doesn't want to be out of his seat in the next couple of years, and he's trying to work his way up the IndyCar team ranking, so to speak. But, just getting it across the line and getting those results has been big, and sitting 11th is not a bad result at all. He's obviously ahead of a Penske driver, ahead of both ECR cars, ahead of David Malukas as well.
Yeah.
And so, getting those results has been big for him, especially when he's relatively new to the IndyCar paddock.
And with a good performance at Mid Ohio, he could be in seventh place. He's only 14 or 7 points behind Scott McLaughlin. So only 14 points behind Will Power.
Yep,
Pretty impressive. And then
very much so.
And then the 12th place one is kind of interesting because he's in 12th place and has been one of the top three drivers in the series probably this year, at least storyline wise, maybe not performance wise. Although he's been up front a lot, and that is, of course, is David Malukas. He's led 71 laps this year, which is what, fifth most in a Foyt car, and very impressive. But he's in 12th place, so you got to go B.
Yeah, I like a B for David. He didn't really find his stride with that Foyt team up until that 500 finish. Ever since then, he's really been up in right around the top 12 for qualifying, maybe in the Fast Six here or there. But he's been so consistent during these races, especially after the 500, where he's having some great results, and he's been making chipping off the block of the championship ladder here as the season counts down. And it's hard not to say he's not going to be in contention for being on oval racing. You saw his performance at St. Louis. He ran a really good race past McLaughlin and Power on that opening lap.
That's
He's
right.
got the speed. He's got the speed to win. He just needs some good finishes coming down the stretch to move up.
Would really love to see that for AJ Foyt.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to see an AJ Foyt racing win this year, and with their driver lineup and the tracks coming up, it's totally possible for them to be in victory lane.
Sure wouldn't have thought so early in the year, but they look like a well-oiled machine at Foyt now. When Larry took over, that was the thought was eventually they would turn themselves back into with of course the series wants them to be good too. Let's not mince words. Everybody's hoping that Foyt's good again, but it looks like
Hmm.
it's finally here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you said it best. Who doesn't want a storied history like AJ Foyt racing to be one of the series best? They've obviously got the historical aspect, and they're just great for the sport in general because not only do you bring in those old time fans who say, "Oh, I remember AJ Foyt racing, and I remember all the races he won," or you can look at younger fans and be like, "Oh, AJ Foyt racing, I'm going to look up who AJ Foyt is," and then they learn more about the series. So it's just great for IndyCar as a whole.
You knew it's not been great for, and that is your guy Alexander Rossi. When he finished second to Simon Pagenaud in the 500, my thought was this is the best guy in the series. He's going to go dominate from now on, and it just hasn't happened. He has had four top 10 finishes, so it's not been a horrible season. But we thought Ed Carpenter Racing, fast car. Now he got a good road course racer, and it just has not happened for Rossi for what's it been, 5 years now?
Yeah, around there.
I
Yeah.
hate it because he's such a great personality.
Yeah, he really is. And he's had some really good running here as of late in these races, but he kind of caught the back end of a couple strategy calls here and there, especially at Road America. He was on that
Yes,
strategy
that's right.
with Dixon,
Good performance
and
there.
yeah, he was on that strategy with Dixon and had to pit, but he's been good at Road America his whole career. So it'll be interesting to see how they can bounce back. We know he's good on ovals. And the ECR car has proved itself to be good on ovals with his teammate
Yes,
being in third at St. Louis. So
yes.
he's definitely somebody I'm interested to watch in this second half because he sits in 13th right now. I know a lot of people have called him Mr. Top 10 for finishing top 10 in the championship, and honestly, with the courses coming up, I would be shocked if he wasn't around that top 10 area.
And he's not far behind the top 10 at all. 23
No.
points, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I think C minus season,
hmm
below
That's fair.
expectations for sure.
Yes, especially he really wasn't super relevant at the 500, and obviously ECR, that is, I mean, it's everybody's biggest race, but I feel like ECR has a little bit more focus just
Of
because
course.
Ed is from Indianapolis. Everybody from Indy
He
wants
was
ECR to
born at the
win.
he was born at the Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants an ECR car to win.
That's one person who's truly been there his entire life in Indianapolis at the Speedway. Is Ed Carpenter. All right, Renus VK, who Rossi replaced in the number 20 car, is 14th. So at least Rossi's ahead of his replacement. So good there for him.
That is,
VK, Dale Coyne, though, I would probably put at the back of the power pole when you talk about team racing. And,
yeah.
so to be in the top 14, a good C plus season for Renus.
Yeah, I honestly would move it up to a B,
Nice.
just because these Dale Coyne cars, it's still an Indy car. It's not like they're totally undrivable, but the difference in power in the top teams to Dale Coyne, there's a big gap there, and for him to have five top tens and one top five is really impressive. And I would really be shocked to not see him be in a bigger. There's not a lot of seats open for next year, but I would be shocked if he's not one of the highest targets in the market for open seats next year. Just because being up in 14th with five top tens and a Dale Coyne car is eye popping. And you look at his teammate, who's only has 56 points on the year, and Renus has 157. So
Hmm.
that's a big gap.
I think I underestimated his season.
He's
That's
having a good one.
that's
He's
why
having
you're
a
here,
good one.
Elijah. That's why you are here. And the other Dane is Christian Rasmussen, who is in Ed Carpenter Racing. And another thing for Rossi is he's ahead of his teammate. Not been a great year for Ed Carpenter Racing, but Rasmussen's been racy,
Yeah, he has been,
and he was good
especially at
last
St.
year. He was good last year at Mid Ohio as well.
Yes, and he's been good at the ovals as well. You saw him at St. Louis charge up into third from pretty much the back of the pack. It was super impressive to watch. He's been very racy, like you said. He's definitely not afraid to bump some tires. But he's been interesting to watch. He's been only been in the series for a couple years, and for him to be 15th, only 11 points behind his veteran teammate is pretty impressive, and I know definitely ECR is probably hopeful on where Rasmussen can go for his career for them as well.
Elijah, the history of Chip Ganassi Racing from almost the start has been incredible, filled with the greatest drivers who've ever raced. But he's also had a few hit and misses guys he maybe stayed with a little too long through the years, like Charlie Kimball, for example. Ryan Briscoe, he probably stuck with a little too long. Darren Manning, ooh, the Darren Manning years. And I'm starting to get the feeling that that might be Kiffin Simpson, or am I reading it wrong?
I think it can be a mix of both. He's got three top tens and a top five finish. He's been pretty unlucky. He obviously would have started up pretty far at the Indy GP this year, but had a mechanical issue before the race even got started and had to retire. But I think you're not wrong in the other sense where he has been irrelevant in some of these races. He's had some pretty high highs and some pretty low lows to the point where he's not even really on your radar or it's hard to really register that, he is a Ganassi driver. He is so new to the sport as well, only being his, I think it's his only second year. But still,
Yeah, yeah.
it
Second
is
year, these results aren't good enough in a Ganassi. I'm sorry.
it's hard not to agree with you. It would be interesting to see how he can
He's
salvage
awfully
something.
young.
I guess I can pose it to you as this. I guess where would you want him in the points standings for him to have a good year in a Ganassi car?
But you got to be in the top 10.
I think he could maybe finish in the top 10.
Let's see what he does. I mean, the season's not over. We're only at the halfway point, but so far, D plus season for Kiffin Simpson to me.
Yeah, I would probably put him at a D as well. He's been pretty good in qualifying. It's just he hasn't really been able to pull it off in the races. And like you said, being in a Ganassi car, you've got to pull it off eventually.
We're coming up to a couple of big old F's of seasons. Elijah, starting with number 17. And at least the top 16 can all say, hey, I'm ahead of Joseph Newgarden. Wow, wow, wow. What a horrible season for Joseph Newgarden. Not all his making, probably none of his making, to be honest.
No, it's so unlucky. We start off at the beginning of the year at St. Pete where he has that third place finish that should have been second, but he had a gas problem on the final lap with the pressure. And I feel like that one unlucky event has been the story of Joseph Newgarden's year in 2025. Just been super unfortunate. We can talk about, the attenuator stuff if it really helps. We could probably talk about the whole attenuator issue at the Indy 500 for hours. But at the end of the day, that's not his fault, really. He probably doesn't even know it's on the car. He got unlucky at
Right.
St. Louis.
Yep.
Hard to say he wouldn't not. He got hard to say he wouldn't have won at St. Louis.
Right.
He was on Dixon's strategy at Road America, crashed himself out. Now that was his fault.
Yes, it
That was
was.
his fault for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. But
But
getting
he's
in
just
this
gotten
big hole
so.
was not his fault.
Yeah. At the end of the day, he was up in eighth place from the back of the field in the 500 before he had a fuel pump issue.
That's right.
And, knowing Joseph Newgarden around IMS, it's hard not to say he would be up there contending. It's just been unfortunate. He's also lost his main strategist, Tim Cindric, as well. So I feel like it's just a really, the season's not over, but it feels like a wash year for Newgarden as a whole, unless he can pull off a win.
This seems so cliche, Elijah, but Joseph Newgarden really the rest of the season needs to just take it one race at a time. Every race is his own championship.
Yeah,
I'm
I
going to go
agree
out
with
and win
that.
every freaking race the rest of the season needs to be his mentality.
And we know he's got the pace, especially on the ovals.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a better oval driver in the series.
You don't go
So
into a race weekend where Joseph Newgarden isn't a factor. And
that's a great point.
yeah. Before we move on to number 18, we got three more to go that we're going to go over. I want to point out that these guys are all in the top 11 this year in laps led. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, Takuma Sato, Connor Daly, and our number 18, Graham Rahal, has led 49 laps this season and is in the 18th place and has one top 10 finish. I'm convinced he's talented, Elijah. I'm convinced of it.
I think all of those 49 laps were probably led at Indy GP as well, unless I'm mistaken.
Correct. All of
But
these were led at one track.
a good away. He's still 31 points ahead of his next RLL teammate, which makes me just think that program and organization as a whole just doesn't quite have the pace. They just something is, and they've been pretty good at
except the Indy road course.
They always are so fast around the Indy road course.
It's weird,
and they're usually not too bad around Mid Ohio as well. So
they're good there too. Yeah, we're gonna have to watch out for them this weekend.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be shocked to see one of them in the Fast Six, maybe two of them in the Fast 12, come qualifying.
And of course, Louis Foster is not in the top 20. We're talking about the top 20 here, and neither is Devlin DeFrancesco. Both of them have had a couple of pretty good qualifying days. DeFrancesco, though, he's had some pretty good advantages, and it just has not happened for him.
No, it's pretty unfortunate. He had the pace as well, especially at Indy GP, and didn't really hang on to a great finish. Just struggle bus all around for RLL.
Yeah, what do we give Graham considering that? C plus, C?
Yeah, I like a good solid C.
And then we're going to give a B plus, at least I am, to our guy in 19th place, Connor Daly. Juncos Hollinger, new team, difficult situation. Again, led 49 laps, led at Indy, led at St. Louis. Had a real shot at winning at St. Louis, again, on the team that you'd probably rank last or next to last on the power rankings in the IndyCar series. So good B plus for Connor Daly. Would love to see him in victory lane pretty soon.
Yeah, I love a B plus for Connor Daly. We obviously know he's so good on these ovals. He's good every time IndyCar goes to an oval. You just almost are hoping and praying that he can pull out a result on a road course. But then again, the Hungos Hollinger cars are not great on a road course. But with that seat not being locked down, he's going to need some good results because I think it's a no-brainer. Fans want to see him in the sport. It's just he has to get some results on courses that aren't ovals as the season wears down.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough ask. Nolan Siegel is in 20th place, and I'm just going to go ahead and give him an incomplete because I'm not sure at all. I get a little bit of the Kiffin Simpson vibe of he's racing above his team, or he's with a team that's above his head, but sometimes I get the vibe that he might be the next guy. So I'm going to give him a big incomplete.
I like that incomplete grade. If I were to give him a letter grade, it would probably be a D, just because you're in an Arrow McLaren and you are in 20th. Your
Yeah.
next teammate is in seventh. No, is in sixth. I mean, that is a substantial gap for
Yeah,
especially.
I'm going to give him a bit of a pass.
Why
Just
so?
because he's not as good as Christian Lundgaard and Pato Award, and neither are most of the field. You're great. You're grading him based on the curve, and I don't think it's fair when Pato Award is busting the curve.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess I kind of look at it more as a point where I guess this is more of a Formula One type point of view. But if you're not competing with your teammates, I think you look like the lone man out. And he has had good results, a couple top tens, but no top fives, no top threes, obviously no wins. I mean, who wins in this? Who wins in 2025 unless you're Kirkwood or Pillow? But
Yeah,
for only two top tens to be in a Arrow McLaren car is a little concerning for me. Obviously, he's still technically a rookie. This is still his first full year. I know he got a little bit of time last year, but he is in the seat again next year, which I think will be a really good test to see where he fits in as a series as a whole.
we're gonna go down to 21st because I need to give one more F, Elijah. And again, this is based on expectation, not performance
Yeah, no, you're
necessarily.
totally right. You're right.
And again, he was right there at Indy, and then ended up finishing for 31st. And that, of course, is Marcus Ericsson. Not been a good year for him at Andretti. The fit has not been there, and another guy who wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear a lot from him in the second half of the season. But it's been a big old fat F of a year so far for Marcus Ericsson.
Yeah, and he's been pretty unlucky as well in a couple races. I think if you take that second points place at the 500, he'd be sitting around 14th or 15th, which isn't great, but it's definitely not 21st. I don't think anybody expected Ericsson to be this low, and it
Mm-mm.
feels like he's almost non-existent in this Andretti group. You're either talking about Kyle Kirkwood
Yeah,
or
you
you're
think
talking
Hurt
about
has been a
Clayton Holda.
disappointment?
Yeah, but I would still think if you think in Andretti this year, you're going to think Kirkwood and Herta. You're not really thinking Erickson just because he hasn't been there
Yeah,
at all this year.
except
And
Indy.
I think that 500 result honestly it hurts his season for the second half as well because he didn't have a really good first start to the year. So getting that second place points and obviously getting a heck of a lot more money than he got um, moving back to the pack, but kind of set his season off just a stinker as in a hole just because now you don't have any good results and you have to start back from square one.
And that brings up Kyle Kirkwood, who would have 8 top 10 finishes in 9 races with his if his result at Indy had stood, and he'd be much closer to Alex Palou, and we might have a race.
Yeah, he would be closer. But I still think he can push from 93 points behind. Obviously,
Palou's too
being
good,
at
Elijah. Palou's just too good. That would
he
take a
is,
lot.
but
93 points is a lot of bad luck.
hey, if there's a sport with bad luck right now for drivers, it is IndyCar.
No doubt about that.
The way that Chip Ganassi 10 crew is oiled, they don't even have to deal with luck because they are so organized. They never miss a pit stop. The strategy's always there. It would really take something magical for them not
That's
to
what I'm
be up in
saying.
the
That's what
up
I'm
in the
saying.
top
93
10.
points is a lot of points to spot Alex Palou.
Yeah, it is a lot. But
Uh,
it's when we get to the ovals, I would be very, very surprised if Kirkwood's not in the mix, getting some point
yeah,
advantage on Palou.
and I'll be surprised if Palou's not in the mix too. Elijah, before we go real fast, just quick grades on the teams. We'll start with Ganassi.
It's been an A, having Palou and Dixon up in the top five,
Yep.
easy A.
Yeah, easy A. Andretti.
I like maybe a B, B minus. Other than Kirkwood, Herta, and Erickson have been struggling out as a whole. Maybe even a B, just because Kirkwood has been that good. There's only
Yeah.
been 2 race winners, and he's one of them. But as an organization standpoint, having Erickson and Herta down there kind of hurts.
Arrow McLaren.
I like a B as well, having Pato up in third and Christian Lundgaard in sixth. Obviously, Siegel's having a kind of a different year, kind of like you said. You're not really sure how to grade how Siegel is this year, but as a whole, you can tell they're really starting to really plant their feet firm and steady in the IndyCar series as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think it's only up for Arrow McLaren.
Yeah, B and with the arrow pointed up for sure. Meyer Shank.
That's kind of a hard one to grade, just
Man, that's an A
because.
minus for me. To be this young of a team and to have 2 guys in the top 11, one in the 4th place. Very impressive.
Yeah, I was either thinking B plus or A minus. I like the A minus grade just because Felix has been so incredibly fun to watch this year, and Armstrong's had his great moments as well.
Yeah.
And for a smaller team battling with some of the big dogs in IndyCar, what more can you ask for?
11 top 10 finishes and 18 opportunities for those 2 guys.
It's pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. Team Penske, we already graded, right?
Yep, I think we all know it's an F.
It's an F, and Roger would agree with us.
Well, Roger would probably be the first to tell you.
We've already graded AJ Foyt Racing as well. It's an A, would be an A plus with a win, right?
Absolutely. Maybe even an A. I think it's maybe even an A plus now. Give them A plus plus. Because I think everybody's hoping they get a win this year.
Ed Carpenter Racing,
Honestly, probably a C minus.
D
Other than
plus.
that podium from Christian Rasmussen, haven't
Mm.
really been anywhere. I guess I do have 6 top 10s total, and a top 3, but it's just been pretty nonchalant for them this year.
Dale Coyne Racing, nice performance for a 1-car operation.
Yeah, obviously, I would give them probably a B just for having VK up in there alone. Maybe even a B plus for him to be up in 14th with 5 top 10s and a top 5. It's super impressive what he's doing.
And Jacob
And
Abel has not been had the results, but he's been racing with some racy with some good drivers.
yeah, I mean he has. And he's so young, obviously a rookie. It's kind of hard to compare him and VK just because VK has so much experience in the series. But as a whole, Dale Coyne is doing exactly what they would want to do, is to get some top 10 finishes, maybe a top 5 here or there, and just get points on the board. And that's what they're doing with Renus for sure.
I think it's been a good solid C for Hugo Hollinger, don't you think?
Yeah, I like a C rating as well.
Haven't
Connor and Stingray.
overperformed, haven't underperformed.
No, yeah, I think yeah, that's perfectly said. You can't really see him above a C. You can't really see him below a C. Stingray Robb and Connor Daly have been in the mix here and there throughout the season, and obviously they're not where they're at points wise with Stingray down in 24th. But you get him on an oval, and I don't think anybody would be too shocked to see Connor Daly up in a top five.
Yeah, I would love to see him get a win so much, especially at Indy.
Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't
Yeah,
we
yes, we
all?
would. Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan.
Probably a D minus.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
No progress.
Other than
They've been around for too long to be a non-factor.
yeah, and other than the Indy GP qualifying, it's been non-existent for them. I feel like every year we're going into last row qualifying for the 500,
Yeah.
and you can almost guarantee there's going to be one or two Ray Hall cars there. And like you said, for them to be this long in the series and still not really found the formula, it's odd. It really is.
And then I'm going to give one more A, and that is to Prima. They've got to get an A, right?
I There's their first year in the sport, and they won pole for the biggest race in the world.
It's
How
an
much
A.
better can that get?
It's
Yeah,
an A. And
it's an A.
and Callum Ilot's been racy at times as well.
Yeah, and he ran really well in the 500.
He did.
It was going to be their biggest points of the year until he was disqualified after post race inspection. And Schwartzman's been there a little bit, and he was there at St. Louis, ran really well. Callum Ilott was really racy at Road America. So Prima's such an organized institution as a whole. You know, they have so many racing series that they're involved in. You know they're
Yeah.
gonna eventually be really, really well in IndyCar.
Love it. Love it. The more competition, the better. And by the way, we should point out that our guys at Dreyer and Reinbold led over a quarter of the laps at the Indy 500. It's an A for Dreyer and Reinbold as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you listen to some of the post-race interviews with other drivers, you can hear him saying, you know, if Hunter Ray didn't have that fuel pressure issue, he would have won, and he would have won. He had the perfect strategy. They executed it amazingly, and just a fuel pressure issue couldn't get him back out. You just hate to see it for him, but I mean, what more can you ask for a one-off team?
And Fox so far, grade?
I'll give Fox a B minus, C plus.
That's where I'd go.
The ratings have been better, which I think everybody likes to see. Obviously, they had some issues with graphics in the first couple of weeks, and you know the booth is still trying to really find their meshing as a whole. But if they're getting more eyes on the sport, I think that's all really a lot of people care about. You know, we want a great product, and I think it's obviously getting there. I think their 500 product was some of the best we'll see from an organization. I don't think NBC, you know, could have done a 2 hour pre-show, and Fox given IndyCar, you know, the time on a main channel, which is all IndyCar fans can really ask for. You're not having to go search through illegal streaming websites to see a race because you know it's going to be on Fox.
The racing package, got a grade for that?
I'd put it at an A. The races
Yes.
have been fantastic
Best
this
it's ever
year.
been.
Yeah, I mean every single race has been really really competitive,
Except for the
and
one
you
that
know
they cut from the schedule, which was just a horrible race.
yeah, I mean thermal is a joke.
Yeah.
I could probably go on to a big rant about that. They should never be racing out there. You know,
Yeah.
tickets
And we're
for
50 minutes in. Let's not go on a giant rant right now.
it's just so ridiculous. But I'm so glad it's off the schedule.
And Roger Penske as the series owner.
For the way he handled the attenuator stuff this year and cleaning house, obviously is hard to do with the three people he did fire, but it's something he had to do, and he's really kept his foot out of the Team Penske racing side and has just led IMS and the IndyCar series as a whole really well this year. I'd give him an A.
I give him an A plus. It's what and here's why the plus, Elijah. He could have made this series anything he wanted, and that included his team dominating it. And he chose instead to make more competition for the betterment of the series Roger Penske, as the owner of the series, gets an A+ from me.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more.
And the season as a whole through the first half, you give a grade?
I'd give it an A- just for the fact we only have 2 winners.
Those were my exact
Everything's
words, Elijah. That's a perfect place to stop it. That was good. Those were going to be my exact words. Other than only 2 winners, it's been almost perfect.
Yep, I
Oh,
absolutely agree.
and get those back markers out of the way on the final laps at the 500. That's the other thing. Other than that, it's been almost a perfect season.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those 2 points, the back markers
Yep.
and 2 winners there.
Oh, it
So
could have been
brutal.
such a great finish to that 500. I'm glad we
It
got the
didn't
winner that
because
we got, though.
yeah, it would have been a mess if Erickson had won. Would have been a mess.
Oh, man, that would have been a mess. And Alex Palou deserves it.
He does.
By the way, well done, IndyCar. My last suggestion before we go, and again, nothing against the new guy, but Kevin Lee. I listened to Mid Ohio last year. I went back and watched it. He's fantastic. He's passionate about it. He knows the sport. He's good at it. Why is he not the main guy? Let's make it happen.
Love Kevin Lee. Ball State grad. Chirp, chirp.
Seriously. Again, have nothing against I can't think of his name, the new IndyCar lead play-by-play guy, but Kevin Lee's great. I just don't understand why he's not anyway. Thank you so much to Elijah for doing that. That kid knows a lot about the sport. Love doing this with him. Love talking IndyCar, one of my passions. We will have a preview of Mid-Ohio on Saturday and a post-race podcast with Elijah's reaction on Sunday. And we will have an IndyCar report every single week of the year, with a few exceptions where there's nothing going on in the winter. We'll do at least 45 a year. Thank you so much for listening. Please spread the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report. All you have to do is hit the share button, send it to your friends and family, even strangers or your mortal enemy. Yeah, please help us spread the word. Thank you. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.